Hello there everybody, this is Krista and welcome back to Crochet Witch Tarot and my dirty board. Okay. Um, Today I wanted to take some time to talk about the decks that I personally go to when I am feeling overstimulated, which is something that just in general happens a lot, but as of late just really has been happening much more frequently, much more intensely, I would say, just as I am learning and uncovering new things about my own neurodivergency. And just in case anyone else feels the same, I don't know, I thought I would share and maybe start a conversation of, if you are someone who experiences overstimulation, I think everyone does, but to like a high degree, do you go to certain decks? Is that something that you even do? For me, something that really helps when I am feeling overstimulated is 1, my noise-canceling headphones. 2, wearing those while engaging with a special interest. And of course, tarot is my absolute huge #1 special interest. That's just what it is. So the reason that when I'm feeling that way, I go to tarot is because for me that is engaging with a special interest, which kind of just creates this safe space for me. So I've got some categories here of just, things I noticed tied together in a certain way. And we'll start off with what better way to engage with my tarot special interest than combining it with my other special interest, which is cartoons. So I've got all my cartoon themed decks here, at least to specific shows. So here we've got Adventure Time, which I have shown absolutely a million one times. This is the Adventure Time Tarot. That is my #1 show, my #1 comfort. That is also a big thing that I will do when I'm feeling overstimulated. I will turn on Adventure Time, play with my Adventure Time Tarot, and it's just like everything is better. The world just melts away a little bit. The Mystery Tarot is Gravity Falls, another show I absolutely love. Tarot of the Unknown is Over the Garden Wall. And then this is my Divination deck of Steven Universe. And actually, these 3 over here are all made by Quarter Press. If you also are a cartoon lover, highly recommend looking into them because they make some great decks. Well, I guess I chat about this a little bit more. Let's look at the Mystery Tarot because I feel like I haven't really shown that one much. And it's just a good one. Quarter Press definitely does just an outstanding job with their cartoon themed decks. I don't know. You could tell that they obviously really love the shows that they create decks around. I actually have, not from them, but off of Game Crafter. I don't know where I mentioned it. Oh, in me and Andy's 21 Tarot Questions, I mentioned that the one deck I would want is a Steven Universe Tarot, and one exists? A lovely person in the comments said, hey, there's a Steven Universe Tarot, and actually, oh, I'm forgetting their name, but I will try to remember to link below. They have a walkthrough, they have a YouTube channel, and have a walkthrough that I watched of the Steven Universe Tarot that was really, really good. It's not called the Steven Universe Tarot, but I will put the details below because that was like game-changing. It just shipped. I should be getting it soon. I cannot wait. Anyway, so when I am feeling kind of in that overstimulated state, like I said, engaging with special interest really is helpful for me. And so being able to combine 2 probably of my biggest, most long-standing, I guess you could say, special interests is really, really very cool for me. And so a lot of the times I really don't, aside from Adventure Time, I really don't read with these decks. For me, it's kind of a like fandom type thing, but when I'm feeling overstimulated, I will put on one of these shows and play with the tarot deck at the same time. So I'm not even really doing readings, it's more just I'm flipping through the cards, looking at the images, looking at the associations, and just kind of enjoying that mental break a little bit that provides me. I just love it. This is a really, I really do need to do some more readings with this one because it's just so spot on. And I haven't really done any yet because I got this in the, I don't know if it was like late, it might have been late fall, early winter. And this show is all about their summer break, so it feels very summery to me, so its time is coming, but I love this deck. And so that is definitely a big category of deck for me in terms of ones that I go to when I'm feeling overstimulated, and that is my cartoon-themed decks. Kind of adjacent to that is a newer to me deck in my collection, and that is the Arcus Arcanum Tarot. Now, I'm very sorry, this one is out of print, but it's not, I don't think it's like crazy hard to find. It does go for some crazy prices, I will say that, but if you just sort of wait it out a little bit, you can get it very reasonably. Like, I want to say I paid, including shipping and all, around like $30 for this one. So if you just, you know, save the searches, wait it out, you can find one. Anyways, enough explanation about that. But something that is another, it's sort of like a cartoon-related interest of mine. It doesn't go as intense as that special interest, but something that was for me a special interest as a child is comic books. And this deck is made, the art is made by, I'm not going to pronounce this correctly at all, Hans-Rudi Wascher. It's German. It is a German comic artist. So it's really still, even though this is not based off of like comics at all, it really has that comic book style feel to me that I am so familiar with, and it really just brings me back to the comics and graphic novels I just consumed as a kid. And something about that is really comforting to me as well. And also just the kind of worn-inness and size of this deck makes it really easy to shuffle. So I find myself a lot of the times I will sit and shuffle this almost as like a tarot fidget toy in a way. I find shuffling really soothing, and so in a way it's sort of like dealing with that overstimulation by using shuffling as like a fidget. And this is one of my favorites to do that with, because then when I, you know, just sort of randomly am pulling out cards, I love the artwork on it so much. So that is the Arcus Arcanum Tarot. Okay, I think that is all for that one, but my other special interests, I'm sure as you all know, we are getting the sun creeping in there. Should we scooch over a little? Let's do that. That's gonna feel weird to me, having that there. Okay. We're scooched. Alright. My other special interests, really it has to do just with the outdoors. Any sort of animals, and now very much so plants, really is just, it's in that special interest category for me. It really is. So the decks that I really like to go to engage with that special interest, right now for plants it is the, what do you call it? The Hedge Witch Botanical. And I think why is because, one, it's on that Llewellyn cardstock. I love Llewellyn cardstock because it is so pleasant for me to shuffle. But the other thing I really like about this deck is that it's got keywords on it. And surprisingly so, I love the white space. I am not usually one for much white space on my cards, but something about this with that subject matter just really works for me, and it's got this very soothing presence. And I also really love the selection of plants in this deck. I just think it's got a lot that really don't show up in many other decks that I have seen or that I have. So I really appreciate that about this one as well. And the guidebook is really just so good. This is probably my favorite plant deck that I have right now. I'm just really loving this one. And if I'm feeling overstimulated, since I am starting my first garden right now, researching that has just like, again, really become in that special interest territory. So engaging with that, just, again, it's like a safe space for me. So I really enjoy using my cards in that research, which is a lot of fun. So that is the Hedwig Botanical Oracle. And I've got many animal decks. I'm sure if you've been here for a bit, you know that. So we're just going to show one to represent them all. But I do kind of just, I've got a basket now, actually, specifically for just any animal theme deck I have. So if I am feeling like that's what I want to dig into, like that's the special interest that is chosen for that moment, I'm just going to drag the basket over to wherever I'm sitting, probably on the floor, and just gonna look through all of them. But the Wild Whiskers Oracle, for me, has a very specifically kind of calming energy for those moments. And I do notice that it's the one that, when I pull out that whole basket in that moment, the one I'm picking up first is always this one. And this is not one that I read with super often. I don't know why, because it is by Faina Laura, who I absolutely love. I love every single thing she does. I just think she's amazing and makes such cool decks. I don't know. I have literally no reason to not use this all of the time. But I think it's because when I do readings with using an animal oracle, most of the time I'm using the Animal Guide Oracle by Andy. So I really think that's just why. But this one, it's just on this gorgeous cardstock that is so easy to shuffle, but it's got this like very soft matte to it, but it's not sticky. The illustrations are just really soothing as well. And it's got this like children's book quality to it, where we get this adjective before the name of the animal, which I think is really unique and fun. And I love that we get 3 keywords as well, and then a message on the bottom. So it's one of those where also it's got this ease of use where it does have a little fold-out pamphlet for more of a message, but you just really don't even need it because it's all right on one card, but it's also not too busy, too much writing, because that's another thing is most of the time if I'm overstimulated, I'm not really doing a reading. I'm pulling out these cards to more have a play, to play around with my special interest. But if I do pull a card, I really like using this because I don't want to read any sort of guidebook. It's just not going to happen in that moment. So having it right there on the card is lovely. And I just really love this animal deck. I gotta leave this out so I just use it more because it's really, oh, it's so good. It's so good. So that is the Wild Whiskers Oracle. Just to represent all of my animal decks, because I will just pull out the bin. Alright. Now we are moving on to a whole other category, and that is, I've got a few decks here that just feel quieting to me. That's not really the right word to use, I'm sure, but they make my brain feel quiet. That is the only way I have to describe it. And to start off, I've got the Gentle Tarot in the absolute cutest Peggy bag in the world. Is that not so cute? I love it. But something about the art style of this just, I don't know, it feels quiet to me, and also it's got animals, so that's a bonus in my eyes. But it has this real calming energy again. That's kind of a theme going throughout, is that all these feel calming to me, just in different ways. And every time I use this one, it's this interesting experience of like, this one specifically feels to me like if you are someone who swims, when you're in a pool and you're floating on your back, but your ears are underwater, so it's like you can see what's going on around you, but you're not hearing. You're just hearing like this water noise in your ears. And it's like that kind of quiet, where it's not silence, but it's like this white noise. I don't know. This might make me sound cuckoo bananas. But that's just how I feel about this deck, and I really, really love it for that. And I do love pulling cards from this and leaving them out for when I am kind of feeling better to get into the big guidebook. I do have the big separate guidebook, which just has really, really great messages and very kind of self-care driven in a way, which I enjoy. So there's that. Next we've got the Whispering Spirits Tarot by Joanna Nelson. For starters, I just really like the big size of these cards. I don't know. Something about that in those kinds of moments just brings me joy, because I like sometimes having her artwork big, especially if I'm just sort of having a bit of a play and wanting to just look at the artwork. I like having it big like this, but something about the Whispering Spirits for me versus like the Mons Tarot, which I also love, is I really like how all of these creatures don't have eyebrows or mouths. So they're very kind of neutral in their expressions. And so if you're looking at them, at least in how we experience speaking, these creatures do not have a way to do that. So I just like the idea of the quietness that must be going on in this world and how they communicate in ways other than noise. Something about that is very helpful for me, especially since I do experience, what is the term? Oh, I can't think of the right term, but I do experience times where I find it, like when I get overstimulated, I find it difficult to physically speak. I don't know, I can't remember the word for that. Anyway, so kind of hanging out with these characters who it just feels like they would never push me to do that is just very comforting. And I don't know, I just feel like they kind of relate to that experience a bit. So that is the Whispering Spirits Tarot, which I guess kind of suggests that they whisper. I ignore that. I don't like the idea of them whispering. Eek! That would be a weird sensory experience. Anyway, next we have the Jane Austen Tarot, which is kind of like a playing card deck tarot mashup. One, I love the card stack on this, so that is just a lovely sensory experience for me. But this is one I like to pull out when I'm feeling overstimulated, but maybe it's not necessarily where I need to block out all sorts of noise. In those moments, I really actually enjoy playing any sort of classical music through my noise-canceling headphones. Something about that just is really, I think because it feels like I'm in my own little world in that moment, feels very relaxing to me, and this is just the deck that pairs with that, because it's just a perpetual Pride and Prejudice soundtrack on loop in this deck, right? Which is commonly the album I play. If you haven't listened to it, I recommend. It's fantastic. It just feels like this deck wants to be just shuffled and pulled from while you're listening to any sort of classical music, but I mean, the Pride and Prejudice soundtrack is a fantastic one to use that for, so, or like the Nutcracker or something like that, I don't know, but I really love this deck specifically for that. So that is the Jane Austen Tarot, and the last one in this category is probably the one that feels the, like, this is the one I go to if it's like, we are real in that, like, red zone, overstimulated. And that's the Future Ancestors Tarot. Something about this deck feels so quieting and calming. It's the artwork and the muted color palette. And for a bit, I really actually thought I wasn't connecting with this deck, but I knew there was something to it. And so it's not one that I necessarily use tons and tons and tons, because it really slots in so specifically for me for those moments of like major overstimulation, like needing complete silence. It feels like this deck kind of, through the figures in here, can offer this silent companionship through that, which is really, really helpful. It's like you have these little guides and friends with you who, again, it's like they're just kind of willing to sit there, not necessarily say anything super loudly, which is actually, I don't have the full-size guidebook. I still just use this paper fold-out it comes with, which is fantastic. And part of the reason I don't really feel pulled to get that big guidebook is because of how I use it, where I feel like if there was any more to read in that moment, I wouldn't want to. The one sentence, if I am doing a reading, is absolutely perfect. And it's just the way that they're written too. Again, it feels like these characters came to sit with you in that hard moment to say one sentence and that's it. Then they're just gonna kind of sit with you as long as you need in this like really relaxing world. I feel like if you were in this deck, it would constantly smell like eucalyptus. Don't you think? So that is the Future Ancestors Tarot, and the last one in this It Just Feels Calming to Me category. And last but not least, the final set of decks I go to in these moments of overstimulation are self-created decks. Oh my goodness, this sunshine is being crazy. Where are we gonna move? Let's travel, gang. Am I making it worse? Eek! I think I might be. All my secrets revealed. I feel like I've already revealed that this is just a tray. Oh boy. Alright, good enough. Good enough. So, self-created decks. I guess this kind of actually leans a little bit into that special interest category, considering, like, it makes sense that I make my own decks, considering, like, how much of a special interest this is for me. But yeah, I currently have many in the works. I've already come out with the Cottage Witch Oracle, which I feel like I have talked about and shown a million and one times. So we're gonna look at the most complete work in progress, and that is, have I shown this? I don't think I have. But right now the working title is the Tarot of Natural History, and this is an animal deck I created inspired by the, what's it called? The Ted Andrews deck. Animal Wise Tarot, which I actually do have a copy of now, but I didn't, and I was like, you know, I'm gonna just make my own. So now I got both. But I have the first edition, so it's different. It's different. Anyways, so for this tarot, oh my gosh, I joined interests again! Wow, how that happens, right under your own nose. It's an animal deck, so I took, like, vintage illustrations of animals, kind of similar to, like, the Cottage Witch Oracle, but I really wanted keywords on the cards. And so the images on here are kind of inspired by pages from vintage encyclopedias or textbooks, and just what I mean, the pictures that I looked up, but also like what I think it would look like. And I just had a lot of fun making this. This is not perfect by any means. There's still some things I need to fix up, some images that aren't quite right. I definitely repeated some animals somehow by accident. I know I repeated keywords. I don't know. You know, when you don't check over your own stuff, that's what happens, I guess. But, let's go back to the topic, okay? Self-created decks. So, a reason that I go towards these in moments of overstimulation, one, is that I like the cardstock I picked. It's very nice to shuffle. And so that's a whole sensory thing that's just nice. But also, of course, like the images and ideas behind this are very familiar to me because they came from somewhere in my little brain. And so if I am going to do a reading, most of the time it's either going to be Future Ancestors or this deck or the Cottage Witch, because I don't need to think about it very hard. Because I know what I was going for here, I know what I meant, you know? So it's that kind of thing. Yes, see, I had crow twice. Silly, silly. But anyway, I am excited about this one. Wow, I feel like I just turned that into an infomercial. I did not mean to. This was just to say that when I'm feeling overstimulated, familiarity is excellent. So how much more familiar could I get than something I made myself? So yeah, that's that on that. Ooh, also Northern Animal is one just in its own category of just, I really like it and it smells good. So I often go to it when I'm overstimulated. But for the most part, it's these two, Future Ancestors, and just depending on the level and what activity I need determines how I select that. But that is the last deck I have to show for today. I hope this was helpful and or entertaining in some way. I had a lot of fun just pulling these decks out and really kind of thinking about this topic. It just very randomly popped into my head, probably about, how long are we into this video? 30 minutes? Probably 45 minutes ago. This idea just popped in my head and I was like, oh my gosh, there are totally decks that I specifically go to when I'm feeling that way. So, other than that, I'll quit my yammering now. I hope you're all having a great beginning to your week, and I will see you again very soon.